My mic is live. My laptop is messy. But that's fine. That's just rock and roll, isn't it? Welcome to Art of Rock. Any minute now, my face shall beam across beamdom. Beaming across beamdom. Sorry about the skips and the splatters. I'm having a bad PC day. Welcome. This is Art of Rock. I want to thank the Tongva people who are the rightful inhabitants of Los Angeles, and I want to thank them for surviving. ANGELSPIT'S new album's out, and I'm actually shipping this mad thing hopefully this week. I start shipping it this week, which is going to be terrifyingly fantastic. If you haven't had a chance yet, it's here. It's on BANDCAMP. It's happening. It's 5 Shades of Kawaktha. I don't even know what Kawaktha is, but there it is. Every Saturday morning we're here, so please join us. And as you can tell, I'm not caffeinated enough, but that's fine. And this is brought to you by ANGELSPIT'S Patreon, who are bloody awesome. You keep me going. Sincerely, thank you. And oops, something went wrong. I really hate the internet right now. Okay, also, MTV TV are amazing. Actually, before we get there, Industrial Incisions playlist has got a whole bunch of bitchin' music on it. You need to know it. It's on Spotify. Go get it. And MTV TV. After this, we zoom on over there because it's fantastic. Or we raid. Ivan, talk to me. Release schedule. Let's go.
Yeah, so... Hear me? Oh, good. Yeah, I released Now I Become Death this week, or 2 weeks ago. My first time around, I'm pretty sure that it was a hot mess because I just went into the interface and said, yeah, release this now, not later. And as it turns out, it still takes 2 weeks. So I spent a chunk of time waiting for it to happen.
You drop a link for it?
Yes, I can do that.
Be rocking, my friend.
Go grab that.
Okay, so tell us more about it. Like, what were you happy with? What were you unhappy with?
I'm actually quite happy with nearly everything about it.
As far as the release schedule goes.
Oh, I was really I didn't know what I was doing, and it shows. Also, when you go to take over your Spotify artists page or artist stuff, turns out you need a website or social media presence already, and the amount of extra stuff that you have to do is if you haven't done it yet is kind of daunting.
Are you with DistroKid?
I'm using SoundCloud
as an agitator.
As a distributor.
So who puts your music onto Spotify and Amazon Music and all that shit? DistroKid.
Just gonna ADHD this for a moment. No, it's SoundCloud that's doing it.
Okay, because you should be able to have the agitator talk to Spotify. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Okay, so all right. If you did anything differently, what would it be? Because it sounds like you weren't happy about it. The words you were using to describe this kind of pertain to this experience sucked.
I think if I had to do this over again, I would really want to get a list of all of the various emails and accounts ahead of time so that I could grind through generating all that. And, so I can already have a social media presence because I don't have one right now other than just my regular Facebook. And what else? And then, I think that would give me the ability to move forward with the release easier because all that junk's already taken care of. I don't have to, grind through all of that like busy work to just do the release. Instead, then I could just go to do a release interface, schedule, and be very aware of the date scheduling, get that scheduled, so that then I would have been able to focus on like doing the social media and the advertising and stuff between the day that I'm uploading and the actual day that it drops.
Okay, can I start shooting my mouth off? One, forgive
Absolutely.
me, I need more coffee right now. Two, so I would be making sure that you have an account with Threads, Instagram, TikTok, blah, 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 blah. Use them or not, think of it as just real estate.
Yeah.
Next, have a text document called internets or something where you write down the URL of every single social media asset of your band. Every single one, including the Spotify artist, including the SoundCloud artist, including the YouTube artist, as opposed to your YouTube channel, including your Amazon artist, Debreezer, the whole lot. So when you need that stuff, you just go boom, 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 boom. I digress for a second. I did is it the trickling thing or the waterfall thing or whatever the Spotify thing is, where they're saying, hey, if you use a previous single and add it to the single you're about to release, it ups the plays or something. Waterfall. It doesn't work. It does not fucking work. I've been experimenting that with for 3 months now, and it doesn't work. And if anything, it fucks everything up because tracks are not appearing on my latest, up and coming tracks thing, which is mission critical for Spotify. And it's dropped 2 tracks have been missed out on, and that's pretty much a catastrophe. But anyway, so fuck Waterfall. It's bullshit. You need to have and if I can get this URL for you, the release schedule, which I'm going to attempt to find now. This is super important and super awesome. That's not what I want. It gives you a rundown of everything you need to do and when you need to do it. And now that you have your social media and you have a Twitter and you have a Threads, you need to be pimping onto those things multiple times. And you need to just drill it to the world, hey, I have this content and this shit exists. And social media and hitting sounds and shadows and shit like that. Hold on a minute, here we go. Okay. Right, that's the link to it. And I'll post it here as well. That's got everything in it. That Damage helped me make that. So that's actually also releasing even with a Kickstarter and pressing vinyl and pressing CDs and all sorts of stuff. That's everything. But when you're doing a regular release, you could do it 4 weeks in advance so it can get it onto Spotify. And then once it drops, you start hitting it. And you send out a social media blurb. The first week is a Spotify week, a URL. Then maybe 3 days later, it's the iMusic, the Apple Music release URL. And then 3 days later, it's the YouTube URL. Because some people hate Spotify and love iTunes, or hate iTunes and love fucking YouTube. But a really good... Also find social media things like Reddits and Facebook groups who would be into your music, who have the same hashtags as you do. And if you're going to hit them, make sure you hit them with YouTube stuff, because they hate Spotify, because I just don't understand why people hate Spotify, but I don't really want to have that conversation because I couldn't be fucked anymore. That's what I got. Does anybody else want to jump in with something amazing? Eric.
That was my hand raise. I need more coffee too.
I love it.
spot on. Yeah, it's a lot of planning. And the first time you go through the whole thing, it's a lot of learning and knowing stuff. But like Carl's saying, there's a lot of stuff that write down and just repeat and put it in a spreadsheet. This one is a really good one. I've looked at it before. Some of the most important things that I'll highlight is putting all the URLs and links in a text file for every release is a good idea, because that's the beginning of your EPK that you're going to send out to people. That should be in every kind of little text file that you put out with any release. That's a good practice. Also, like when you're going through DistroKid or somebody else, I use DistroKid. I see a lot of benefits from it. There's some downside from some of the others. That's a different discussion. But the you're going to get frustrated when you put in all the information for 30 minutes and then it gives you an error at the end. You got to start over, and then you got to do it again. So being able to copy and paste all that stuff back in, especially when like Carl's been putting out ones with features and other artists in there, and also it'll just kick back and delete all your information sometimes because it didn't like one thing was formatted a certain way, and then you got to go start all over. So having that, it's just another one of those barriers that feels like it's designed to keep you from releasing your music sometimes. But I'd say the most important thing on this list is that Spotify pitch a week to a month before your song comes out, because that's how it gets on Release Radar. Release Radar is the most important thing on Spotify. That's how people will see it. You don't have any monthly listeners yet because you just put something out a couple days ago, So once you get monthly listeners and it figures out like what is like yours, because that's what Spotify is doing in the background. It's like what looks like this music, what did other people listen to? So once it starts profiling, giving a score to your music that it uses in the background, you'll want to be able to pitch it to that Release Radar. Now, ultimately, when you pitch it, they could select it and put it on one of their playlists, and that could get you a bunch of exposure you wouldn't normally get. But the base, that's like winning the lottery. But the real thing that you're doing it for is to get on that Release Radar, so the day it comes out, it gets in front of all your fans that are listening on Spotify.
Yes.
So much stuff.
And your hashtags are so important. And yes, we all hate genre and we all hate that shit. But I highly recommend that you have for your agitator, because the first question your agitator is going to ask you is what's the genre and what's the subgenre. You need to know that. Then when you pitch it to Spotify and Amazon, and I think iMusic's just started something similar as well, but they just don't care about artists. Spotify is going to ask you what's the genre and subgenre, what's the pitch, and if you have one pitch that the only thing you do is you might change the wording a little bit, but boom. Also, write out your lyrics. Make sure that your lyrics are somewhere and they are spell checked and correctly laid out. Oh my god. Also, this is all admin shit, which is really fucking boring, but it's really important. Like, man, over half the job is admin. And musicians don't want to do admin. I don't get it. And it's like, man, if an Excel spreadsheet isn't your best friend, I think a musician needs to have a spreadsheet open more than they have their DAW, Ableton, Cubase, whatever it is you're working open, because you are going to be hitting up that spreadsheet more often because you've got to be fucking organized. Man, I'm so outspoken today. So there you go. Eric.
Yeah, I echo that 100%. DistroKid allows you to easly attach your lyrics to it, which Instagram, you can time out to your music. So when you post it on Instagram and Facebook, it actually gives you some features that you wouldn't normally have if you don't have your lyrics on there. It's really cool, and also gets promoted more because it's a feature they like to promote. Also, you need to add a canvas. Going to Spotify for artists, that's one of the most important tools you need to get familiar with now that you have something on Spotify. Go put that track you just uploaded, go put a canvas, a 7-second video for it. I just discovered a new band I never heard of this morning when I woke up, because it had a canvas on it, and Spotify is now putting those in front of people. Ooh. There's a lot of discussion where people are like, why are visuals so important? It's just music format. Well, these platforms have no way to promote your music if there's not a visual for it.
Yeah, no, and like I'm working on a short format thing that I'm messing with right now. So a video is about to become very easy for me.
Cool. Yeah, I would always say don't overthink it. Keep it simple, especially at first. I mean, all the DIY stuff. You can do some pretty cool stuff with just a few filters off your phone and filming up close on some equipment, and then get more complicated later.
I'm occasionally all thumbs with Premiere Pro. Sometimes I get lucky and it all works.
This is remarkable, and I'm taking my headphones off. Can I still hear you guys? Hey, ho, talk to me, someone.
What's up?
Right.
Still talking. Yeah, another
I'm gonna put
thing
my
too is like we've been.
Guys, I'm gonna keep talking.
Like
I'm getting chocolate because fuck it, it's Saturday morning and I'm eating chocolate.
The other thing too is we're doing a different strategy. This is our fifth album, I think. Fourth album with the real release strategy. So this one we decided to release every single track each month before we release the album. So we've effectively been promoting it for 10 months now. So every month we're releasing one track, and it's a lot of work because you still got to do the 30-day, step through the process, and you got to be committed to it. You're constantly working on the next one that's coming out. So we had one that came out yesterday, but all the work we're doing is not for the one yesterday. It's for the one that's coming out at the end of next month or at the end of the month. And then you got to, not only that, you got to plan like what they're 3 months ahead of time or whatever, because you got to go create all this stuff. But doing the one single a month has taken us from a small number of listeners to a large number of listeners, and it's just created constant content. Because it's just how people consume it on Spotify. We talked about it before. Yeah, when people go to BANDCAMP, they're active listeners, and then when they're going to Spotify, they're passive listeners. So they need to have stuff kind of put in front of them, and to leverage the way Spotify works is probably the best things to do, because you can only promote one song at a time. So if I put a whole album out with 10 tracks, 5 tracks, I got to pick one song that I'm asking to be on release radar or be promoted or be looked at. And then a couple weeks later, it's all over. If I put one song out every 4 to 6 weeks, then I'm constantly building on that. And it's a lot of work though. I mean, and it becomes 70% that stuff and the admin stuff and 30% music at a certain point.
And don't do the waterfall thing. Don't do it. Don't do it. Alex, go. Oh, sorry. Eric, were you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Excuse my mood. Blame the chocolate. Alex?
I have a question.
Shoot.
Eric, do you just put out the single track, or do you put on a B-side as well?
All right, so here's my strategy. This is not the waterfall thing that Carl's talking about. Is I put out one track at a time. So I pick the one that I think is going to have the biggest bang for the buck. So this new one that came out yesterday, Chris Brenna is on it. So he has the most followers on Spotify. He has about 20,000. He's ANGELSPIT'S. He has about 45,000. I would have put his single out and only his remix out. Then in a couple months, I'll go with the Der Prospector or the Y John. I'll probably do the Y John one next because he has about 5,000 followers or so. And I'm trying to get the biggest audience first, and I only put out one track. Then I go to BANDCAMP, and I promote it as out everywhere on all streaming services, new single, blah, 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 but exclusive remixes on BANDCAMP. So I'm giving them kind of clear direction where I want them to go and what I want them to do. So I want them to go to Spotify. I always say save, share, and playlist everything. That's on Spotify. So that's what I'm asking them to do with the single release there. And then Spotify does its thing, and it's only focusing on that track. It's putting it on Release Radar. It's putting it on radio. It's putting it on Discover Weekly. And then I have ways I can promote it and stuff on Spotify now that it's out there. But then I'll release a different single later on, different track from that single separately, if I decide to. I don't release them all on Spotify, and when I have released like a 5-track remix, even if I have like an artist that has 10,000 followers on it, it'll get like 100 streams. That's it. But if I release it by itself, it gets 5 or 10,000. It gets something equivalent to like how many followers they have.
Okay, can I shoot my
People
mouth
like
off?
exclusive content anyway. So you say BANDCAMP's exclusive.
Can I shoot my mouth off? So this is brilliant. The trick is that if you can do it in such a way that the artist who is on there can also push it on their release radar, then that's bloody awesome. And you may have said that while I was putting chocolate in my face, because I can't think of the world if I'm putting chocolate in my face. So that's the first thing. And then the issue you've got is that if that artist is putting shit out every month like me, I can't sacrifice the timeline. So that sucks. I apologize. But if you can do it, and if you can also try and just, if two bands can like work together and you just say, oh, that band's featured, and even if the band's not featured, to fucking help each other out, it's a good thing. What I wanted to say is like there's a whole bunch of strategy in this, and people hear business strategy and they go, I can't do it. But then, as soon as you're done with that conversation, they jump onto World of Warcraft or Star Wars or some RPG where it's all about strategy, where you need this many points so that you can take on the Death Star and whatever. And I'm all over that. Treat it like it's a fucking computer game. Because it is. Treat it like this is a strategic attack on something, and what you're trying to do is increase the number of your troops, life force, X-Wing fighters, I don't know. Treat it like that. Because it's pretty much the same, except the 3 lives and you die part, because that doesn't really exist. Just treat it like it's a game and go at it, and it's actually really fun. Yes, there's a whole bunch of, like Eric said, he's just the bearer of bad news. Eric is Mr. Depressing, Mr. 70%. Didn't I say 75%? I absolutely agree. You're going to get to this point where it's all admin, because if you don't have a label, and the thing is, I'm just going to get signed, and the label will do it. No, they won't.
No,
they won't.
These days.
If you're huge, and the label might do it, but no one is going to care about your music like you will. No one is going to take on your campaign like you will, because it's do or die. It really is. So, just like what Eric said, Carl is an alien prophet, and we should all worship him with chocolate. Right. Also, it's all about that admin, man. It really is. And think of it like, all of your internet, like we were talking about all the assets like of social media, that's your weaponry. So just have a spreadsheet or a text file that's full of your weaponry. That's what this is. And when you do a campaign, because that's what it's called, you're pulling in other troopers who can help you out. Treat it like it's a game. It might actually end up being fun.
It is definitely a learning experience, which I wanted. I was working on a tool yet, and getting through this in the most painful way possible is teaching me how useful Tool will be.
Let's hear it for Tool. Eric, hit me with your wisdom.
All right. Also, one thing, if you have all this stuff ready just for this release, then when there is interest or somebody says, hey, can you send me some more info, or we want to play your song, you have all the stuff ready.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a huge bonus there. So talking about get off the Warcraft and other strategy things and start making this your new game, your new app, is one thing that helps is having someone you can chat with about it. I have someone, his name's Eric at Dread Risks. There's a lot of Erics in industrial music. I don't know why, but there is.
It's a status thing. You reach the height of Eric. Like your real name's like Dave, but you became an Eric.
Yes.
I am now Eric Dom.
Yes, and you need a 4-letter name too, obviously, to make to make this music. So
You do.
Alex got-
Look at what is going on here. You do.
Everybody's for letters.
Yeah. Because the Eric. Sorry, no, go on.
Yeah. So find someone you can chat with, because that'll get you that grind, that thing you're getting from the app. So we talk all the time. We're like, hey, I'm trying this, or I'm going to do this, or you remind each other of stuff. But you get ideas. Like I was talking back and forth with Dread Risks. They're also from Texas, and he's like, hey, what about doing a release with this radar with this artist? Because they're co-primary friendly or dual primary release friendly, feature friendly. They'll work with you on release checks. I haven't even asked the guy for a remix, and we're already picking people that will coordinate their release schedule and doesn't have something coming out like every 2 weeks, or so it's stepping on steps. So you start thinking about those things before you've even done the remix. Now at this point, but then that led to him doing an opening gig in LA a couple of weeks ago for Snakes of Russia, because we were just having that discussion. So it's having those discussions will keep that mojo going and get your head in the right space, and you'll start. You'll also get around those things where you get frustrated too. Like the downtimes, like I just talked to this label and they don't want to maximize how they're releasing this song, and this artist I just talked to, they're forcing them to put out a maxi single on Spotify instead of just one track, and a lot of them just aren't there yet. They're trying to release on an old kind of way of doing things. But having someone to talk about will help kind of get you through the ups and downs, but it'll also help create that trajectory and that motivation to get out there. And then the last thing I was going to say is we need to do like what hip hop does. Everybody's doing features, everybody's has guest artists. That's what helps build smaller brands, especially to build it up, get work out there that know how to feature them, how to put them on there. Have that discussion with them. Don't surprise them. Go, oh, you're a feature, and I thought you didn't know that. You have to have that discussion with them. But you can put together a group of 5 to 6 artists that you work with, and you can constantly be putting something out each month. And they put out something has your name on it. You put out something has their name on it, and you can create momentum by doing some of that stuff.
That's actually a really good idea, and because like what spreads things around and creates a group cohesion. That's a good thing. And yeah, I mean we're most certainly not beyond learning from other parts of the world
where they have collectives. It's really funny. People always say, what's the magic number? Is it 1,000 or 10,000? If you have 10,000 engaged fans or something, you can do this full time or something.
1,000.
It's 1,000? I actually think it's much less than that. But I think what you need are bands, are bulletproof bands. I think that's the key. And they're bands who are on it together, driving and doing it, and not just out for themselves, but they want to care for you too. And not because they're going to get bigger, because they want to see the best for you. And that's what you need. Because, opportunities comes your way and it's like, oh, I can't do it for whatever reason, so I'm going to pass it on. Go at it. Reminds me of a joke, but not now. And you wouldn't get it anyway, because it's one of those weird Australian jokes. Somebody tell me something amazing or change the subject. Go.
So I once met this producer. He was like a really, really big producer with lots of hits records, and he told me his secret. And he told me that in 1993 he killed a man and the police haven't found the corpse yet. I don't know if that was a good joke, but I don't know. I like it.
I have songs that are like corpses that no one's ever found.
Killed a man.
I have songs that are like corpses because I buried him in the backyard.
He killed a man, but the police never found the corpse. I don't get it.
I was waiting legal action on this.
It's the big producer secret that will get you a hit record.
All right, I don't understand, but I'll smile
Okay.
encouragingly.
It's a YouTube social media thing where it's like usually a format where this one trick will get you your mix right.
Okay. Hey, I've got a subject. That's great. Thank you so much. I got a subject.
Sorry.
I saw Oppenheimer yesterday.
Oh,
And it blew my fucking mind. It was Hans Zimmer, right? Sure sounded like fucking Hans Zimmer. And it just blew my mind that it was like everything about the movie, everything that guy does is just brilliant. The ending was so good. That movie's got a punchline in it, and the punchline is a spear that goes through your heart. And what blows my mind also about Christopher Nolan movies is that they make you look at your life and go, yeah, my life's really fucked. I've made some terrible decisions in my life. Anyway, but besides that, it was amazing. But the sound design and the way that okay, so here's an orchestra and here's a fucking Moog. And the way the two interacted was mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. And it was just really it was I was listening to it going, man, I spent a lot of time on my music. I try very hard, but I was just thinking, I'm not where I want to be yet. Like, I am not there. I have no laurels to rest on, because it's like, it just, you know, it was just amazing. Like, and the musicality, I'm talking about the musicality of what was going on was just, and I saw it in the IMAX theater in Hollywood, and it was like, Jesus Christ, this is just beautiful. Ivan, go.
On the music side, this is a journey, not a destination. So.
Oh, thank you, Ludwig. Gorison did Oppenheimer. Thank you very much. Ivan, keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
Like, I'm afraid of the day that I'm suddenly just like, nah, I'm good. I'm happy. This is right where I need to be, because like that means that I stopped.
Yeah. No. Yeah, totally, man. I agree, but that is not. Here's Razzie. That is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is where I am now at the tender age of 51, and after 11 albums in Angelspit and second one for Iceman at Planet 9000, and I've just, hey Rezzy, I've lost count of how many fucking albums I've done and blah 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 blah, and I've been doing this since I was like 1. I'm not happy of where I am. Like, I'm not happy. I need to push harder. And that's it also ties into the it ties into so many things, is that I look at what's going on with me and I just go, like, musically, for my music thing, that, you know, it's just, I need to work harder. I need to work harder, smarter and better. And, you know, although I spend hours on those initial ideas trying to come up with something that is absolutely beautiful or terrifying or ugly or grotesque or hideous or whatever, but all down the line, you know, I still just go, you know, I've got a long way to go.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, you know, every time I listen to somebody else, I'm listening to what they're doing, like, piece, and thinking of ways that, like, or being inspired to try new things. So, it makes it more fun for me, at least. Also, speaking of all of this and Spotify, one of the interesting things about, you know, finally getting a song up there is, if I just go play the song, you know, from Spotify, and then it starts having to fill in the blanks afterwards with things that Spotify thinks are going to work with it, I've been amazed by what Spotify what the AI comes up with as follow-ups to that song, because it's been like Goblin. Yeah, and I'm just like,
hold on, when you say amazed, is that good amazed or bad amazed?
Oh, wildly good.
All right, yeah.
It's been like a treat.
Yeah,
you know, and a bunch of stuff that I've never heard before, like Goblin. Well, heard plenty of, but I was amazed that it would think that I was in the same league. But then also like there's a whole lot of like Mizrahi, dark techno out there that I'd never heard before, and 6 months ago I wouldn't even have known existed. And it's throwing that in as you're working with this, and it's like, well, thank you, because this is really good.
Yeah. Spotify's algorithm is brilliant. It's so brilliant. I fucking love it. Did you want to continue with that, or am I going to throw it to Mr. Eric?
One last thought. I'm actually kind of amazed by their algorithm. Normally, when Spotify makes choices for me, I don't like them, but like this time, it's just hitting out of it. It's hitting home runs. I'm very amazed. All right, I'll shut up now.
Good man. You rock. Thank you. Research the way it looks into the algorithm. It's really smart, really simple, really smart, really effective. Eric, hit me.
All right. By the way, Razi only has 4 letters in his name. Everyone's 4 letters. See, it's a thing. We figured it out.
It's a thing.
So that's the algorithm. We figured it out. So what you're hearing, Ivan, is what it thinks you want to listen to when you listen to your music, not what other people are going to. That's not what it's going to recommend for other people to listen to your music. But it will start to figure out what goes with your music as it tests people listening to it and what it recommends next. Once you get some songs on there, what you want to do is create playlists. And you hear Carl say this all the time: playlist. And you want to direct people to your playlist, so it plays the next song in your playlist instead of what Spotify wants to send them to, which is the new Drake song or something, right? Or whatever or Goblin. You'd rather it go to the next C-Peptide song, right? So you have some control over that. What's interesting is Spotify seems to play the right music for what I'm listening to on a regular basis, and I listen to some pretty diverse stuff. But SoundCloud is like really whack what it recommends to me afterwards. Like it'll go right from industrial to hip hop to like Indian Bollywood music. It's so bizarre. But I want to get back to Oppenheimer. The loud crunchy noises that he used in there too, man, when they were just showing like these ideas and these like quantum level kind of looks at things and, things breaking apart and splitting the atom throughout the whole thing, and like kind of representing how his brain thinks. I really like that, and he does, and Nolan does that in his movies. So I don't know if he has the same sound guy for all of his movies. I don't think he does, but he uses a lot of, or he doesn't have the same guy doing the music. He may have the same sound designer, but he uses that a lot, like in the Tenet and some of those other ones as well. Yeah.
Keep going, because I want to jump in on this.
All right, cool. And then I wanted to say one other thing that's related to it. When I listened to the new Angel Spit album, I heard something I hadn't heard in Angel Spit albums before, and it's just like acoustic, analog, like percussion thing that's in there. And I don't know how you recorded it and what you did that was different. I haven't been around for those conversations, but it added this new dimension I haven't heard in Angel Spit music before. That's what I thought of when you were talking about Oppenheimer and what you liked about it. There's this, when he's mentioned mixing orchestra with Moog, I felt like when I was listening to all the albums on the new, all the tracks on the new album, there was this like percussive, like banging, like really acoustic analog sounds mixed in with that wall of analog and digital and all of that stuff. And I really liked that. And I thought that was kind of an evolution of the sound when I was listening to it, and it stood out to me in a very positive way.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So
remind me of a Tom Waits album.
Wow.
Bizarre.
Thank you. One of the early ones?
Yeah.
Dude, wow, that's a compliment. Thank you. Okay, so hold on, Alex, give me a sec. Dunkirk and Oppenheimer blew my mind because the differentiation, the line between sound design and musicality, there was none. The revving of a Spitfire became, the actual rhythm of the Spitfire became the cello line. And I'm going up beyond the whole ticking clock thing, which was critical, but also in Oppenheimer, I don't know how much of that sound was composed and how much of it was sound design. I don't know. And that's what I loved. I fucking loved about that massive, crazy fucking shit. That was part of the score, because the music rose. There was so much music in that movie. It was wall to wall. And that was actually something that really inspired the last album, is that in industrial music, there is an amount of sound design. We like our weird noises, but there's also an amount of musicality. But where those two, and specifically it was Dunkirk that inspired that, excuse me, where that is merged, it's so, like, inspiringly unachievable to me. But anyway, that take that as something positive. I'm going to shut up. Alex, go. And thank you, Eric. I really appreciated that. Alex, go.
First of all, sorry again for my joke. I found it funny at the moment.
That's okay. They found it funny. I didn't. Blame me. I'm not a cool kid.
Okay. Something that's like keeping me from, like, I think something I struggle with is figuring out what success would look like if I would ever achieve it. Because I feel like I'm just trying to make something, but I don't know for what situation and what I want to achieve.
I can tell you what success looks like. Success looks like the half an hour, 2 hours worth of work that you do every day on your band, but stretch that over 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this is what is really difficult, and I don't mean to sound like a wanker saying that I'm successful, but it pays my rent. I do this full time, and it's why I'm in this country. I don't think I'm successful at all, but whatever. What I have learned is that I'm going to pull it back to the computer game thing again, is that you give these, you know how you get life points and nutrition points? In the game of rock and roll, you get give a fuck points. And when you're young, and the problem is revitalizing them is really tough, because when you're young, you get 100 give a fuck points. Yeah, let's go. And then your band breaks up, and then this happens, and you're losing all these points. But then you finally release the album, and you get a whole bunch of give a fuck points. But the problem is, the next album, instead of getting 20 give a fuck points, you only get 15. And then the next one, you only get 10. And it's the same thing with a tour, is you do your tour and, oh my God, that's amazing. 20 give a fuck points. But the next tour, it's only 15, then it's 10. And then before you know it, you start losing give a fuck points on the tours. You start losing give a fuck points on the albums. So where the thing that is replenishing your give a fuck points, it's got to be something else, which is perhaps I am seeing a positive impact on other people's lives. I am inspiring people. I am making friends. I am learning about the world. I am having the opportunity to see the world from a different perspective that not many people get to see. Whereas if you say money, fame, or whatever the things that people think is the attributing of success, you're going to run out of steam real quick. You need something spiritual, because music is spiritual. As a musician, you're a preacher, you're a priest, you're a coven leader, call it whatever you want. You're a leader. And you have to have a mindset of a holy person. Because the only way you are going to get through this and to keep doing music, like Jaworski's still making movies at the age of fucking 95 or something, because he has a higher calling, and you have to find your higher calling in music. Why am I doing this? Who am I? All that shit. There you go. Plus 12 to 14 hours a day on an Excel spreadsheet going, fuck, I just want to play with my synthesizer right now. I really want a Moog 1, but I can't afford it and I can't justify it. There you go. What's an in-cal movie?
That's one of Jodorowsky's books he did with Mobius.
Oh, look at you. Oh, wow. Did everybody see Eric go, oh, I'm looking at my Jaworski and Mobius. There it is. Hey, oh my God. Aren't they doing that?
Yeah, they are.
And they got New Zealand guy to direct it.
Yeah, I think they were talking about even turning it into like a series or something.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Fucking, that's huge. Yeah, man, that's brag-worky. That's very brag-worky. All right. Does anybody else want to talk about this? Resi, you're quiet, and it's kind of concerning me. Or do we talk about something else, or go skydiving? Alex!
The Spotify algorithm is really interesting. I've got a friend, and we used to go to this club back in the day, and then we moved away. We still go there sometimes if we're in town. And what my friend's algorithm does, he always recommends bands that played in this club 2 weeks ago.
Huh.
So there must be a sort of connection in the algorithm that connects certain people who
Okay.
listen to.
Yeah, if he's your friend or something on Spotify, so I might like band 1, 2, and 3, and because we're friends, you like band 1, 2, and 4. So it's going to tell you about 3, and it's going to tell me about 4. You dig it? And then if we're not friends, it's going to go, you like listening to Spank the Nun. Well, here's a whole bunch of other people who like listening to Spank the Nun too, because there's a lot of them. And those people also like this music here, so I'm going to see if you like that. One thing I don't like about Diana, good to see you. One thing I don't like about Spotify is that it's got the band's hits or the latest track. It doesn't deep dive, and that I wish it would deep dive more, because it's like, I've heard that Jean-Michel Jarre Tangerine Dream track 5,000 times now. I want to hear something I haven't heard before, but Spotify is now trialing this new thing. Which is called, I can't remember what it's called, but they're basically pulling your older tracks out and they're pushing them at people. They're actually charging a fee for it. But I actually think I don't have a fucking problem with that at all. So if you normally in a month, if that track gets played 10 times, but now because of Spotify it's going to get played 16 times. Discovery mode, thank you so much. If it gets played 16 times, so that's 6 extra times, it's going to take 30%, which is 2 plays. It won't pay you for 2 plays. It'll pay you for the four extra plays and the other plays, but it won't pay for those 2. I actually think it's a fucking good deal. Because, yeah, I think it's a good deal. Eric, go!
Ironically, my deep dive track that is just popped to the top through discovery mode is the one that you remixed for us a couple of years ago.
Really?
Yeah, just a beautiful track, just like popped up to the top. It's at 1,000% listener lift.
Oh, cool.
So it went from 1 or 2 spins to 24 or something like that.
Awesome.
In the first week.
So what I want to know is it okay if because I don't actually suggest other people's music, because I go, I don't want to rob those people of, fractions of cents. Because yours has been suggested. Is it okay if I throw your the latest remix I did for you? Is it okay if I throw that into the discovery mode?
Yeah, if I added you as a feature, I can put, because I did on this one, you can put it in your discovery mode too. And then we both get credit for those streams.
Awesome. I love it. I'm happy. Resi,
Yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry, Eric.
Yeah, I was going to say, just real quick, if I look at my top 5 that I got the most lift from, I'm talking 500% more lift. 3 are new songs and 2 are deep dive tracks. So I'm pretty encouraged of could be a way for people to discover some of these older tracks.
All of my discovery mode are old tracks. They haven't put anything new in there. It's all old. Like I'm talking 5 years plus. But hey, man, I don't mind. I don't mind at all.
I mean, that's thousands of more listens than normally would have had on these tracks.
Yeah. Okay. You rock. Thank you so much. I'm going to throw it to El Razadora. Razzie?
Yes. On the topic of, well, it strikes me as Spotify doing their usual business of trying to pay artists less and less and finding lots and lots of ways to reduce that cost burden, so that the topic actually being, Carl, you think it's worth it, and Eric, also you are talking about things with actual numbers. How does that translate into worth it? What is the actual value and number of Spotify plays that rises to being worth it to take a compromise on, and what is the worth? What is the value? Because it's obviously not the payout for the sync license itself. There must be other knock-on cumulative effects of having those plays.
Yeah, for me, it's getting played. And the thing about these things is that...
As in reaching people.
Yeah. The thing about these is that either you're going to get played or you're not. And I'm not getting... option one, track doesn't reach people, I don't get paid. Option two, track reaches people, I get paid 66%. Not 100%, but 66% because they're taking a cut. And when I look at that from a business risk perspective, it's costing me nothing. They're taking their cut from that point there. And plus, with this discovery mode, each month you can add or subtract stuff. And if the track gets all of these ads, then you can take it off discovery mode because it's been added to those people's playlist, and then you're not being charged. Yeah, that's what I think. And I really fucking like, if other streaming services did something like this, I would say yes, absolutely. I will absolutely surrender part of my sync income for a push in their best interest, because music equals advertising royalty as far as they're concerned. In their best interest to get my music to people, and it's not costing me anything. Which is why I absolutely hate SoundCloud, and I think it's completely pointless, but that starts fights. Oh my God, don't start me on SoundCloud. I wish Amazon did this same thing. I wish... Amazon is the greediest fucking company in the world. Why aren't they doing this? I wish Apple did this. It's the second greediest fucking company in the world. I would gladly surrender fractions of cents, like the amount of money I'm losing right now in this, $1, and as a result, thousands of people are hearing my music for the cost of $1, or I'll say $10. Probably more like $5. There is no pitch marketing campaign on planet Earth that will put my music in front of 1,000 people for $5. None. And technically I didn't even pay that $5. Technically I wasn't paid $5. Yeah, I wish, Jesus, if I did an ad campaign on something else, like on any other fucking social media platform, for that, let alone to be in someone's face, my content in your face and I'm paying for it, fuck you. It would cost me hundreds. But that's not even guaranteeing they're going to click or give a fuck. So, yeah, I think it's bloody awesome. I think it's fucking great. Eric, go.
I agree 100%. There's really nothing to compare.
No,
Spotify.
Eric, you agree 66% because I'm taking that other 33%. Go.
I agree 70%. Look, we're negotiating.
No, dude.
So there's no comparison to streaming services to anything else in the world. Before Spotify came along, the record and music and listening industry, because it's a listening industry, was tanking big time. People weren't buying CDs already. Everything that was out there for 30 years was not working anymore. When Spotify came around, less than 10,000 people were making $1 million a year as artists. Now 35,000 off of just Spotify. Forget all the other ones make more than that. I wish I was one of those. But it often gets compared to radio plays. Oh, if I got it on the radio, I get paid $1. And 1 million people would have heard it. Yeah, but that doesn't mean shit. I mean, 1 million people listen to you on Spotify, you're getting paid $400, $4,000. I mean, they pay way more if you look at it that way. But the way I look at it is like Carl looks at it. I'm getting paid for you to hear my music for the first time and become a fan, and then I can convert you to CDs and shirts and whatever I want to do. I'm getting paid to get listeners. And this Discover mode is, they're taking 30% of something I didn't have before. And so you can look at it as like, well, I should have had it because Spotify should get my music in front of more people, and I should have had more of those just because. Or you can look at it, is this how it works? And it's only going to work like this for 6 more months, and it's going to be some other way. Once everybody's on Discover mode, it's not going to work for any of us probably. It's also, people aren't using basic features like Release Radar and Discover Weekly and radio. So this is just another tool, I think, for people that are figuring out how to use them to be able to do it. And then again, Amazon owns fucking Twitch. And Amazon doesn't do anything to monetize that music that DJs are spinning on Twitch. It's insane. And they're blocking the music that they sell on Amazon that they have the rights to play on Twitch. Man, we go on this one forever.
Oh, we could.
Shit.
No. Now let's talk about BANDCAMP. And I just want to say a huge fuck you, BANDCAMP, that I don't get paid fucking streaming royalties for people who play my fucking music on your fucking servers, and I fucking should.
Yeah.
You take 15% for what? Exactly for fucking what? And fuck you for the BANDCAMP Friday. Like, oh my god. I just think... Yeah. Anyway, so the difficulty, I think the really big difficulty here is when you turn 26, you stop listening to new music. That's a problem. So what I am doing is I am trying to listen to new music and encourage people I know, because I'm 27, to listen to new music as well. That's that's why when you look at Gary Newman, for example, Gary Newman only has 800,000 plays a month, and most of them are cars. His new album is not really getting played much. It is getting played, but it's not getting the amazing response that album deserves. Same with Skinny Puppy. Same with so many bands that are releasing their best music now. So go in there and listen to their new music, or even better, buy it on vinyl and buy it on their Bandcamp and then stream it on Spotify. Put up with the ads, or whatever. There you go. That's my rant. Someone go. Ivan.
I will go. Yes, no, and people do. They kind of stop listening to new music when they turn 26. I'm not one of them. Granted, I got to turn 19 yet, so me and my 15-year-old friends.
I know, man. I know.
But I mean, I can't imagine, just replaying the same stuff forever, because that's so boring. It's so boring, and and I hate that. I'm always on the lookout for the next new good thing, because there's always going to be a next good new thing, and I can't imagine not hearing it.
Can I go on? I'm sorry. Actually, Alex, I think you wanted to say something. Did I hear your voice cut in there?
I make a conscious effort to listen to the stuff teenagers listen to. And
You said that
sometimes-
very depressingly. There was such despair in your voice.
Yeah, sometimes it's really enlightening. Sometimes I can't really understand it, but I think it's just the music, not my age, because I think trap music is going out of fashion right now. And
Do you think trap
The-
music's going to come back in 30 years' time?
yeah, of course, but
No, seriously. Do you think it will come back in 30 years' time?
most definitely.
Okay.
People seem to dig it for some reason. I don't.
And there's nostalgia connected to it, so when the people who are listening to it now are 30 years old, they're going to want to hear it again. Sure, makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, and sometimes it's like some teenager who made something in Fruity Loops and it blew up on TikTok, and there's something redeeming about it because there's some energy or maybe some mood that resonates with people. I'm rambling, sorry.
Okay, now that's fine. I'm going to ramble too. Firstly, Tacky on YouTube, welcome. Thank you so much. I'm reading your comments and I'm loving them. Firstly, bring me back around to utilizing new technology as well. I need to rant on that. It's really interesting that I remember when Devo bought out Peekaboo, it was seen as this terrible track. And it was like on Rotten Records and who are this Devo and of course I loved it. I thought it was the best fucking thing. Best fucking thing I'd ever heard. Because like I was a young teenager in some shitty country town. What's interesting is that I am aware that people listen to youth of today and they go, I don't understand what this, thank you, I don't even understand. I realize that there's a thing in my brain that every time I go, youth of today, what is this shit? I go, I can't say that. I need to listen to this music because they're intelligent, smart people who are living in a different cultural situation to what I am, and therefore this music is appealing to them for a different reason. And for that reason alone, I go, I need to listen to this, and I need to not like it, not respect it, but at least loosen up the neurological plastique in my mind so that I may get to a point where I go, you know what? I kind of get it, you know, or I understand why they like it, you know. Secondly, it's funny that you know, when I listen to Jean-Michel Jarre and Depeche Mode, because for exactly the reasons I was just talking about, and I listened to the musical transition of what they were doing from fucking Speak and Spell to Construction Time Again to Black Celebration, Butter, 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 and now back to their, all they do is modular synth stuff. It's just fascinating how they embraced the new technology as it came out. So did Jean-Michel Jarre, who also went back to a room full of analog gear. But he does use new shit as well. It's really interesting that I am aware that whether it's comfort or I don't know what it is, but a part of me wants to be stuck in a rut. And I am aware of this. And I need to be working towards breaking myself out of that as often as I can. And that comes to do with listening to new music, which comes to do with Spotify playlists. And although I might not like trap, I might like Lawn or all of this other stuff that's coming up. And it's important that I hear this stuff. It is important that my mind keeps pushing neurological pathways, because that will be reflected in the music. You know, perhaps I'm not sounding like the guy that did the soundtrack to Oppenheimer because I lack the imagination. And, you know, to say that, I lack the imagination. That is possibly the most terrifying thing I can say. I lack the imagination. Like, that scares me. That perhaps my imagination is closing down because I'm closing down to all of these other ideas as well. So stop being such a pompous bastard, Carl. Ivan.
So youth of today, you know,
Like
we
Resi.
we were all there, you know. We were like take a moment to remember what it was like to have that youthful enthusiasm and fired upness, and like everything's new and you're still learning the game, and you know, holy crap, I'm gonna just try this because, you know, oh, nobody thought of this before. And they have, but, you know, I'm gonna think of it this time. Maybe I'm gonna think of it differently. Who knows? I've really been living by a rule lately, which is never do anything to undermine the sheer energetic beauty that is just like that youthful enthusiasm. You know, like seeing kids doing crazy stuff, and, you know, shit, as long as they're not hurting themselves or other people, like, then go ahead, you know, try it. Yeah, no, sure, I, you know, maybe don't understand this, but you do, and that's great. And yeah, no, and like ruts are places of comfort. We stay there or go there or end up there because it's comfortable, safe, easy. You know, you can just stay there. It's fine. Most people do. But, you know, I will always lean on this one, which is that it's a lesson I learned in Boston, which is that, you know, all the big rewards are right outside your comfort zone. You gotta leave the rut. You know, you really just climb out of it, and instantly you start finding rewards, and those rewards are worth having. So, yeah.
Thank you. Really quickly, Alex, I see your hand. A really wonderful idea, I think I stole this from David Lynch, is to meditate on a leaf. To either a magnifying glass or glasses if you're visually impaired in any way. Stare at the base of the leaf, and then you turn it over so you can see the veins, and watch the veins. Slowly look at the leaf. And all the way to the edge where the veins just disappear into this amazing workpersonship. And the purpose of it is to open your mind. And then once you have looked at that leaf and the mastery of its design, look at the tree it came from and realize that it is full of leaves, which is in a forest full of leaves. Doing stuff like that, and really, like, basically having an acid trip without having acid, allowing your mind to just go, and you start clearing neurological pathways. So I'm told. Alex!
The most interesting thing is that I didn't like the music that teenagers listened to in general when I was a teenager, so I always keep that in mind.
What were they listening to?
Nickelback.
They're awesome. Fuck you.
Depeche Mode, Construction Time.
No, that's way before his time. That was in the 80s. Oh, I'm asking Alex. Spice Girls. They're awesome. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Skrillex. Skrillex is awesome. Seriously.
His critics are actually like not everything he does, but some stuff of his was very interesting.
But
and so much undeserved hate.
Nevertheless, that music does have there is going to be a nostalgic trigger for you, and that nostalgia is really important. It's very important because when you are in that young period, your mind is growing massively. Listening to the music not only brings back them with the memories, but it also reminds your brain how it was growing, and it will inspire your mind to grow again, which is the fascinating, mind-blowing thing about nostalgia and nostalgic music, which is why it's being used in brain damage therapy and dementia therapy and stuff like that. Eric.
I was just writing down my notes so I wouldn't forget what I was going to say. Is it possible to tap into that nostalgia of other people on purpose. So, like doing cover songs, like you do a cover song from Depeche Mode, you know, we have, you know, or The Cure, you know, from that time. And I tend to see that when we're picking cover songs, it's almost always when we were like 18 to 21 where we really like those songs. Those are the cover songs we want to do. And then can you, in your new music, can you put things in there to tap into that with certain sounds and construction and things like that?
Okay, this is a really, really fascinating question because the new ANGELSPIT'S album, The Bastard Gods, is tapping or is trying to tap into my nostalgia for Skinny Puppy, Two Dark Park, early Severed Heads, Front 242, Frontline Assembly, Young Gods, Noin Barton, that sort of shit. I think it's actually really hard to. I think it takes a lot of skill to do that. The thing also to remember is that at any one time, there's a whole generation that is open to the concept of nostalgia, and fortunately for us, our tribe is replenished with young. So your music is being is now becoming a point of nostalgia for a new audience. It's a really interesting question. It's why bands do covers. You know, it's why Marvel keep putting out the same shit over and over again. It's the familiar. But as far as the production and the sound design quality, that's fascinating. That is such a fascinating idea. Like, and I would love to do an album like whatever. Again, I try to. You know, I try to, but I always drastically fail. Which is kind of good because it ends up being different, I guess. You know, Alex.
I sometimes am in the situation that what I'm jamming sounds pretty much like Bytes' Skinny Puppy, and I actually don't like that because I want to do my own thing, and it's somehow scary to be like directly on that notch.
That's a pretty damn good notch to be on.
That's true, but it's not the notch that's me shaped.
Well, the notch will come. Like, remember, you got your hammer and you're just going to bang that thing some more. But that's a good notch to be on, I reckon. Sure, man, bang away and change it and grow but yeah, it's if that's your starting point, that's a pretty good starting point. Because remember, man, there's an amount of aggression and terror that people work hard to try and achieve. Terror, for want of a better word. You know what I mean. And if you start there, dude, that's exciting.
Well, you of course have to carry it to fruition and through the painful project, to the hardships of songwriting. But yeah. But what I also wanted to say, I've watched a person doing 60s style songs and actually imitating the whole production process. It was fascinating. I wouldn't want to do it because he bought a tape machine and recorded to it. Of course, he didn't have like Abbey Road's kind of consoles, but he tried to recreate that process from time to time. Just music actually sounded like something you would see in the 60s in a record shop next to the Beatles.
Wow.
It was really impressive.
That is actually really fascinating. That's brilliant. Eric.
Yeah, I would say, man, don't worry about it sounding like that. Just go for it. You know, I often like our first song we ever put out had a sample from Dig It in it from the drum loop, and it started out where it sounded like the sample, like we sampled Dig It, but after going through it a few times, we didn't try to bury that sample in there. We actually started chopping it up and finding a new life for it, and now you can't even hear that it's a sample from Dig It. in there. So it took on its new life, and it was really just at that point it became inspiration for us to kind of launch that song, and that became a song. Um, the also like we may tackle a cover song, and we start going down this new path with that cover song where we're like, you know what, this is no longer a cover song, this is a new song, and we're gonna just create a new song. Maybe we go retackle that cover song. It's just ways of getting inspiration and just pushing yourself forward and creating. And I would say let's look at songs as like movies and books and graphic novels and other things as influence. And don't, you know, you're not afraid to make a Blade Runner song, you know, because that's a movie. Don't be worried about making a Skinny Puppy song. I mean, I would be happy if you put a whole entire Skinny Puppy album that sounds just like Brap or Too Dark out, because I want to listen to that anyway. They're not doing it. You know, someone needs to do it. I mean, look at what was that band Coldplay? They made a whole entire career off of a YouTube song. You know, they just stole one sound from a YouTube song, and that was it. That became their sound.
Alex, thank you. Eric, Alex.
I guess in the end of the day, it's like I'd rather be the best version of myself than a shitty version of my favorite artist. But that's maybe just personal preference.
No, dude, that's totally true. That's totally true. But sometimes you got to stand on the shoulders of people to, you know, climb up that, running up that hill, because you can't make a deal with God to swap places. All right, I tried. Wow. Okay, Resi, go. Why do I feel like I'm in trouble?
No. Alex, I think you're okay if it sounds like somebody else. We're building on something. We're trading on familiarity and variation. We are exploring and reinventing to some extent, but within a context. And sometimes that context feels way more familiar to the person who made the thing than it will to the people listening to the thing. And the more tunes you write, the more you'll recognize where you fucked up and crossed that line. But that's what we're doing. I mean, there is room for music that is wholly original, and if that's what satisfies you and that's the reason you're doing it, then also call something finished and move on to the next thing, you know, like, believe me. But don't get, I hope, if there is a purpose of the music to be shared and to have people understand it in a certain way and receive it as entertainment, which I think this ties right back to imagination and nostalgia, then it's fine. It should, in fact, remind you of something you loved to some extent, I think. Hopefully.
Cool. Awesome. Love this. Good conversation. Does anybody want to throw in any other ideas or anything like that? I got a very interesting comment over here. Yeah, anyone? I got an interesting comment from Taki saying, is there an unhealthy rivalry between East Coast and West Coast in the dark wave scene? I haven't noticed that. There is between Sydney and Melbourne, but I don't know about East Coast and West Coast. There's also the synthesizer thing, which technically doesn't exist. Yeah, okay, that's a no. Does anybody else want to jump in about anything, or Alex kind of putting his hands up?
I don't know if you're interested, everyone, but I've been thinking a lot about minimalism versus maximalism, specifically in the case for Skinny Puppy, because like the earlier work was like just drum machine and I think like a sequence synthesizer and pads, and then of course the vocals. And if you go to like Too Dark Park and especially like their recent stuff, there are so many layers, so many sub-melodies, so many little details. Especially if you watch the breakdowns by the person who mixed them, whose name I forgot.
Ken Hiwatt Marshall.
Yeah, exactly. He put or they put like little snippets of little guitar licks into the track that you just don't hear if you're just casually listening. Yeah, and I've been thinking a lot about it. Maybe having like lots of things, or maybe just a few things, but crafting them to perfection. And maybe you have some opinion, because I think I personally tend to be more on the side of minimalism as a personal preference.
Awesome. Eric, I'd love to hear what you have to say about this.
It's interesting when we like overproduce something and put in 100 layers. We tend to, like, the next track or after doing some of it, we want to go like super minimal on the next one. It's almost like there's a bounce back and forth. So we actually did it on purpose for the new release, self promo here. But for the album that's coming out at the end of this month, we recorded all the songs very minimalist, like 2 tracks of synth, a sample track, very simple drums. Not minimal drum. And the drums aren't used traditionally, like 4 on the floor in most of the songs and stuff like that. So we went for this really kind of bare bones kind of sound, got it mixed, mastered, listened to the whole thing. And then when we came back to it 6 months later and listened to it again, we said, okay, we're going to put out a single for every one of these songs. Actually, we started with like 5 songs. And we're going to go put all the layers in and rebuild them and redo them so they're not minimalist. We're just overproducing it in some cases. So it's kind of an experiment for us where we're going to have an album version. It's very minimal versions of these songs that are very different, not intended for the club. And then we have a single version of every single one that just falls into that heavily produced version of it. It was just a fun kind of experiment for us. But I do find us like, we'll work on a couple songs and we'll go very minimal. Then we'll go to another one's very overdone in many cases. And the minimal ones tend to get to good faster, and the many layers takes more input and thought and frustration and more struggling with solving that problem, of what that song is. Then it's in some of our best songs. The people, when we after the show on Saturday, they're like, we love this song. Those were the 2 songs that took hours to make instead of weeks to make, and so I love it when we hit that right mix of those tracks.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Razzie.
As a solo composer, producer, songwriter, recordist, I think that maximalism in all its glory, and as addicted to it as I am, is a crutch, a workaround for the drudgery of and difficulty of refinement at the minimalist level. I think that I'd like to hear if other people use making things big and elaborate to change their mood about the work of working on a song, because that's where I find a lot of the fascination and fun. So I'm not necessarily being self-critical on that level. It's got to be enjoyable. But there's an interesting balance there. Both of them are going to take some effort.
I totally agree. I work so hard I have a dream that one day I will write a song that's got a big pulse width modulation in it, where you can actually hear the pulse width modulation and it's not being cluttered by all of this other shit. Over the last few years, I've been working on the drums. I just kick, snare, and hat. Maybe a drum loop, but not a whole bunch of shit. For so many reasons, like there's just so many reasons, and exactly like you said, that song that you spent in like 3 hours, it just came. Listen to John Fox. Like, as an electronic artist, throw yourself into John Fox. He's the king of minimalism. And, he's just so, 8 tracks, man, always 8 tracks, kick, snare, hats, bass line, a melody, hymn, and gee, is that only 5? It's funny, when you were talking about minimalism, I thought you were talking about Philip Glass, because I'm doing this crazy deep thing on Philip fucking Glass right now. And really going into the arpeggiators and arpeggios he uses. Arpeggios are a really great way to clutter something up completely. And let's put lots of delay on it. No, don't. Get rid of them. Oh my God. I think I want to do, maybe next week, we'll just talk about arpeggiators. Eric, hit me.
I agree with you, 82.3% on this one, Carl.
Sorry, dude. It's 66. And that's all you're getting paid.
Got it. Okay. See if I can remember that eventually. One of the things that you made me think of is the way we start organizing our tracks in the DAW is with subgroups. Well, we'll have one subgroup just for the kick and snare, one for the main bass line. And then this way I can quickly mute out all the extra stuff we've been adding in and try to get to the core or basic of that song. And it helps us focus in on the bass line and focus on that. And then we've started taking the delays off the arpeggiation and start putting automation around high and low pass and filter frequencies. Instead of adding a new sound every other bar, add a filter transition or change on that, or start sweeping in a different synth playing that sound, or turning them in and off. Start getting tricky with the automation to really vary it up. We use a glitch effect to kind of glitch the lead, or some version of the drum tracks. But we've been using a lot less reverb and kind of filler noises, delay and reverb, and trying to just get to that core version of that song. Because one of the things I've thought about before is, like, if I spend 100 hours trying to make a song sound minimalistic, and you'll never know all the work and effort that went into it to make that one little sound be back there because it's different and it's perfectly placed, versus spending less time on it and coming out with something just as good. I'd rather get more things done, and I purposely sit down and give myself an hour to get to something I like, or I just say I'll save that, put it away for later. And then if I'm feeling like I'm in a really creative mode, every hour I'll switch to something new, and I'll come back to those tracks a couple days later and I have 3 great sketches to start from that are inspiring, or one that is like, oh, that was garbage. Maybe I'll think it's great later, but probably not.
Brilliant. Thank you, man. Ivan.
In an interview ages ago, Dave Sylvian actually pointed out that, in his songwriting, he removes sound until he finds the song, which I totally appreciate. And even my latest thing, there's 8 tracks on that whole song, and then some of my other stuff, it's 4. So I mean, you can get there, it can be done, and I think when I'm trying to feel inspired is when I end up filling up a song with just track, over and over and over again. But I am really discovering that, using automation on filters and stuff, I can get further faster. I can make it more interesting a whole lot faster by keeping the track simple, but then using automation inside of them to improve things. And then yes, in the DAW, organization is king.
Yeah.
Because being able to just shut off all the percussion in one swipe is super valuable. And yeah, I think having a whole weekend where we talk about ARPs is totally worth the trouble.
For sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Ivan. Razzie.
Someplace between minimal and maximal is this idea of subtraction. And we're talking about refinement and technique, where you get good at organizing your mix, or you've worked on something that you made by removing stuff. But there's also this, I don't have anything smart or instructive to say about it, but it's something I want to remind myself to look back into. Highlighting what's missing and finding ways to make obvious that there is something missing. and celebrating those gaps and the outlines that are left by things. A field with a black area, a song with a space in it, the gaps between the notes after you've executed the sustained portion of your bass, where those become meaningful. And I think there's a rich technique and exploration avenue in there someplace. I love the idea.
That's really good, man. Thanks. Eric.
Yeah, I can relate to that, Razzie. So one of the challenges we have, we've talked about this before on here, is nowadays we have access to any sound synth ever made at our fingertips, right? And so that could be something that makes us want to put every single thing in there. Sometimes you just want to just dive deep into a Moog and just like figure everything out about it. But those are all things that turn into sound design, not song creation. And they could be a rabbit hole that keeps you from ever getting to that song. What I've found helpful is create templates in my DAW of basic sounds that work. Like I got a kick and snare that work. I know what it's going to sound like on 20 systems. I'm not going to have to spend time mixing that. I already know. Put a couple bass in there, a lead in there, and then a place sample. So I've already got the things in there that I know that work to inspire creation out of myself, and I'm not spending 30 minutes putting that together. Now, that being said, sometimes that 30 minutes is the creative mode I need to be in, putting that template together. There is some cathartic kind of things in there. It's like setting up your new wall of sound. There's some cathartic, stuff that goes into that. It's a pain putting all that stuff back get that angel spit sound, but putting it together also can inspire and create new opportunities and just get your head in the right set. So sometimes templates can hold you back too, but I think having some different options, and this is a David Lynch thing too, is you have the spaces around you for you to work in. You don't have the video game up on the TV and stuff, but you have the starting points that can help you in different modes when you're there to get to the thing you want to get to.
Totally agree. Love it. Does anybody else want to bring anything else up, or Razzie, go?
Making stuff. It's been a long time since you urged us all to get out the hot glue and wire cutters and fashion something, but I was working on something this week, and I don't know if there's a discussion to be had from this, but I was done with my album art. I had a little hybrid of a photograph of mine with some mid-journey manipulation and then back into Photoshop to put the parts back in that made it look like a human. And I thought it was good. It was clean and it was dramatic. I just wasn't cutting it. So I went back to the drawing board, and I did have echoes of Carl's voice in my head, with some kit bashing and construction and creating my own stuff. And hopefully we're on this watershed here. It could go either way. Might suck, might be great. Probably won't be anything in between. But I've created a headpiece out of some mostly lighting modifiers, so black wrap and some scrim and paper, and then some twisted wire LED fairy lights and stuff. And it's going to be part of the a much grittier, high contrast concept. And it's not something that I've been sharing the progress of, except in private. But it's been rewarding. Like, I've enjoyed touching things and creating things and crafting things and coming out with something that I can share and have people go, oh, cool, a couple of times so far. So thank you for that.
Oh, cool. Okay, can I make some suggestions? This is for artwork, right?
It is, yeah. It'll ultimately be the album art, the song art, the digital release art.
And it's going to be worn by someone?
I will be wearing this thing, since I'm the subject.
Excellent.
And photographer and art director and such.
Get close-up shots of it.
Yes.
And obviously, even if it's on white or black or something, so that when you lay it all out, you can actually lay the text around the image.
You are reading my mind. I have a backdrop. I have, my photo paper and lights and stuff, and I've used the tools successfully to decomposite in some of the studies that I've done for how it's working out. So yeah, and also
great.
details of the work itself, like the macro shots of the texture of the object. Hopefully, I'll get some more use out of this stuff to integrate it as a more of a overreaching style guide for the project.
That sounds great, man. That's great. Yeah. Oh, well, I want to see photo. I want to see this. This is great. I mean, when you're ready. Because it sounds ballin'. Anyone? All right, cool. Do it. I think, like I've said before, something I want to start doing again is the old destructo things, like getting in there and just exercising that part of my brain, because it's time to exercise my brain. Or relax my brain or something. Let it be creative and free. Alex!
I tried to convert a t-shirt into a tank top, and that completely failed. It was a disaster. I had to throw it away. But I think you learn from your mistakes.
Okay, great. So this is a 5-part question. Is did it fail or did you just stop early? Because the trick is you got to keep going. It's just like a song.
In such a way that if I cut it more, it just drags, so it will remain.
Perfect. Then sew it back together. And sew it back together as Frankenstein as you possibly can. Even better, get a piece of string or a shoelace, wrap that through the area that you're connecting, and sew that so it becomes this kind of like thick vein running through it. Like, because what's fantastic about this stuff is that if you can do that with a t-shirt, you can do something similar with music. And that's where this process gets so exciting, is that suddenly the t-shirt becomes a reflection of music or musical possibilities and ideas. I'm throwing this to Resi now. Go.
Document that thing. If not the process, then at least the part where you thought you were done and you thought it failed. Because in a different context, and this is advice much more general than just Alex's shirt, the failures and the problems and stuff become beautiful seeds and elements of something completely else, or mostly else. The close-up texture of the ragged edge becomes something that you can use as a layer in another composition. The ill-fitting garment on a torso can be something that you take only a quarter of or a half of and use to border something else and put it up against something. There's a lot 6 months from now, a year from now, that you're going to look back on and say, oh yeah, I see the beauty in that. I see the horror in that. I see where they meet.
Yeah.
Capture.
And it's where those two things meet. And man, it's fascinating that, people talk about I want to look and I've got to figure out my look and what's my look and all that shit. These shirts and this shit that you're ripping up, that's your fucking look. And it is so much more rewarding than watching fucking streaming bullshit. Just to sit down with a few hours and get threads all over the floor. And maybe drop a needle in the carpet by accident, and that needle turns up in your foot a few days later. But and you'll sleep better as well, and you'll wake up excited. You'll go to sleep excited, you wake up excited. And then you might put it away for a month or two, then you get back into it. It's a really funny, it's a wonderfully funny thing. There's a great question here. Taki's asking, does anybody have... I'm actually going to throw this in the next week pile because this is a big conversation. Does anybody have any old musical projects they aborted that could go back to? I would love to talk about that, but next week, just because we're running out of gear, running out of time. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Is get an old t-shirt and fuck it up. Get an old pair of jeans and fuck them up. Yeah, it's wonderfully, wonderfully therapeutic, and it's good for your brain. Fucking shit up is good for your brain. By Carl Learmont. I'm thinking we might zoom on over. We might raid on over to MTV TV. Diana, I don't know if you're there. Does anybody else have anything they want to bring up or anything? Okay, cool. We're going to attempt to raid, and I want to thank you so much for joining us. We are here again next week, next Saturday. I think I'm here next Saturday. Anya, Diana. That's us. And remember, this is brought to you by ANGELSPIT'S Patreon. So as little as $3 a month, and you can help me keep my crazy shit going. It's right there. Plus, the new album is on BANDCAMP, and it will give you nightmares. I fucking promise. Right now, we're gonna go on over to MTV TV. So we're gonna set up that raid. Diana, you can raid whenever you want. Thank you so much for joining us. You bloody rock. We'll see you next week. Bye. 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 Bye.